more needs, more elements to this that other people could think of, which I'm not going to cover. So if you've got any other thoughts, please post them in the comments if you're watching it on YouTube, or if you're on Spreaker, then yeah, there's probably a comments box there as well. But I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on this. If you happen to be listening to this podcast, not that many people are at the moment, but maybe in 6 months, a year, 2 years' time, you might be. You never know. Yeah. So the first category of needs is social needs, and that, I think, which one might feel they want to be in a relationship because they want to they don't want to be lonely, they want to have a social life. Now that is relatively easy to solve. The second category of needs is what I'm going to call the physical slash sexual side of things. You want to have the opportunity to have a physically intimate relationship with a woman, to be close to a woman, to have those hugs, kisses, all that sort of thing, and also the sexual side of things as well. And that need is a little bit harder to substitute outside of a relationship, but that I do have some ideas which I have actually implemented myself, and I personally find very helpful. So we'll go through these one by one, how you can substitute the needs that you would otherwise get within a relationship. So let's deal with the social one first of all. So you're a lonely man, and you're really want this girl to become your girlfriend because you think that's going to open up a social life that you can tag on with her friends. You get the invites to dinner parties and all that kind of thing. Well, here's the thing. I mean, I could do another episode, and I probably will do another episode on the whole area of building a social life, because I think this is something I have been quite successful with, despite the fact that I'm a man with Asperger's syndrome, that I gravitate towards deeper and specialist interests. I don't really like small talk. Despite all those things, I have accumulated a rich and what variety of friends over the years, and my social life now today is better than it ever has been, and I'm in my 40s. And a lot of people will say, well, when you get to your 30s, 40s, all your friends marry up, they all got kids, no one wants to go out. And well, it doesn't have to be that way, because there's always going to be those people who don't have kids. But the way I've done it, in short, is I've basically just got out there as much as possible. So, and that's what everyone has to do. And if you're living in a town or city, there's plenty of pubs that you can probably go to most of the time. There probably are events on at pubs. There may be open mic nights if you're into music. There'd be quizzes, perhaps. There are also churches, charities that volunteer work. There's all sorts of ways one can meet, all kinds of hobby clubs, dance classes are a great one. And I know this is all very generic stuff, and I think back to around 15, 20 years ago, when I was wanting to make friends and thinking, well, how do I make friends? And I'm thinking, well, yeah, I'm talking like this now, but I was thinking, well, how do I make friends? Because at the time, I just couldn't think of anything that I wanted to do that would involve meeting people. I thought, well, I've got my interests, but they're all kind of, they're not very social. But if you really want to, I mean, if there's nothing else, you can just go to the pub on your own and just say, hey, I'm a bit on my own, and see if there's anyone else to chat to. I mean, there are plenty of opportunities out there. I mean, I think what I didn't mention is probably one of the easiest things, which is meetup groups, which is something I've done as well. Meetup groups and those types of things where you've just got a bunch of people, mostly single people, that they want to go out and have a social night out. They don't have any friends available that night or regularly, so they go out and hang out together in a pub somewhere. Or, of course, there's other activities they do. But the point is, there are opportunities out there if you want to if you don't want to be on your own, if you want to be doing things that are social, there are plenty of opportunities out there if you get out there and make the effort. If it's something you really want. And your attitude has to be, in my view, that you are just going out there to meet people and have a good time and to be able to have a social life of some sort. If you, the more and more you do this, you will find that, in my own experience, is that you will, out of the many hundreds of people that you will rub shoulders with, you will meet a few that you really connect with, that you really bond with, and you become good friends with. But you finding the really good friends, people that you really connect with well, isn't necessarily going to be that easy, or it's not going to be overnight. But in my view, if you are just if you're kind of completely honest with yourself and you say what you think, you don't try and be someone else, then you will find that there'll be others who will resonate with you. That's the way I find people who've resonated with me. And so, and also, the more you do this, the more that you'll find that you'll bump into the same people again. Those who will recognise you. You might be invited to, you might get invited to one party one day, and then someone recognises you. Oh, where did I see you? Was it at this pub, or was it at this class? And when you meet people who you've seen in different contexts, even if you've not been close friends with them in that context, you do create more of a bond. So this isn't an overnight thing, but I mean, I think overnight, more or less, depending on where you live, you can get out there and meet new people. That is doable. So you can overcome the loneliness just by doing that. The making friends might take more time, but your attitude needs to be, I'm just going out there just to do something social, really. And I mean, if you're living in a very remote area, it might be more difficult. But if you're living in a town or city, there's probably a meetup group. If not, there'll be pubs out there. Just you can go to churches, all kinds of things, all kinds of options out there. And yeah, even if you meet, I mean, I sometimes have been to a meetup type group or singles group, and I've seen the people there. I thought, my goodness, this is a weird bunch of people. But even if you have to have a bit more patience, because even if you look at overall going to a social setting and you look at the type of people there and you think they're all weird or they're all too old or whatever, you may well find that actually in amongst those people there are certain individuals that you really connect with. They could become your best friends. You're not necessarily going to make your best friends within the cool crowd. And actually, I think the more you do is you start to realise that what you actually want out of a social life may be different to what you think you want out of a social life. So the bottom line is, if you think that having a girlfriend is going to meet your social needs, your general social needs, there are plenty of other ways to substitute that. No one of any age has to be on their own if you don't want to be on your own. There's always plenty of ways you can go out there and meet people. And I just to briefly say before I move on, I mean, when we had the COVID situation, that did change a lot of things. Obviously, it did shake everything. However, if you were one of those individuals who didn't want to lock down, didn't see any reason to stay home and follow the rules, it was actually, for people like that, it was actually easier. It's much easier than at any other time to make genuine friendships, because there were people out there who were going against the government, not following the rules, and have remained perfectly healthy, by the way. And many great friendships were formed during the anti-lockdown protests, for instance, and other connected, informal meetup groups. Many friends have been formed. Friendships have been formed during the COVID era. So I just thought I'd add that one. Now, the second area of need that you might want to get from a relationship is what I'm going to call the physical / sexual need. Now, this is more difficult. And this is an interesting one because basically, and I think this gets to the crux of it really, because basically most men, in order to feel fulfilled for their overall well-being, not obviously not for life and death or basic essentials, but for their own well-being, need that close physical contact, intimacy and affection and the sex from a woman. And I find it very strange when you hear on forums about dating advice, people just say, oh, just learn to love yourself, all that kind of thing. You don't need anyone else, just learn to love yourself and then someone will come along. Well, that's not the issue. The issue is not about whether you love yourself or not. It's whether you are getting, you're feeling satisfied in how much physical affection and sexual activity you are getting from a woman. And if you are lacking in that, then this is a real problem. And this gets to the heart of the neediness issue, because the fact is men in general do need women. And in that sense, you could argue a man needs a relationship of some sort. So the big question, and I think I discussed this in my previous episode, episode 2, is if you cannot find a woman who is willing to be your girlfriend, how else can you meet that need of physical contact, intimacy and affection and sex from a woman? It's a bit of a difficult conundrum, but I do have a few ideas. Now, there are 3 different things I can think of, 3 ways you can meet this need. I'm going to go through all of them. The first one is by getting involved in some form of partner dancing. And I particularly recommend, say, bachata or kizomba or any other more slower dances, which is where the dancing is a little bit like a kind of a slow romantic, when you see a couple doing a kind of slow romantic dance, that sort of thing. And the good news is that those kind of dance styles are becoming more popular. More people are going to classes to learn that sort of thing. And there's many benefits to partner dancing. Obviously, instantly, automatically, you can go to an event, go to a class, and go to then once you're confident, go to social events, and the music starts playing. Right there, you are physically close to a woman, much closer than you could be in ordinary everyday life. So the benefits of this is that, one, it's inexpensive. I mean, you're typically going to pay maybe 10, maybe £12 for a class and a social that follows. It's affordable. It's very social. You meet a lot of women and other guys perhaps in the process of going. There is potential for real friendships and possibly even relationships to form just by going to those kind of events. There's, depending on where you live, there are regular opportunities to go to dance classes and dance events. In many cities, you may have opportunities several times a week, or if you live a bit further out, then at least once a week if you're willing to travel a little bit. Even if you live in a rural area, you can probably get to your nearest town or city. There'll probably be something on. And there's many young, attractive women there. I mean, the women who go to, who dance bachata and kizomba, that sort of thing, most of them 20s and 30s, and they're all feminine, in good shape, and they wear like nice dresses. They dress nicely. So there's many benefits. And if you are lacking the physical touch of a woman, then doing partner dancing will go a very long way to solving that problem and meeting that need. Now, there are a few limitations. The obvious one is that you can only go so far. You can't actually have sex with women by going to dance events, and you can't take your clothes off and all that sort of thing. So there's a limit to how far you can